what happened in a life-threatening situation when your baby son died.
Nathaniel was almost 2 years old. We had been strongly urged by doctors to put him on steroids and antiviral. We tried to resist, but felt that it was a pretty severe encouragement by them that they would write us up for non-compliance if we didn't. So we allowed them to put him on steroids and antiviral. 36 hours later, I was headed back to the hospital. I pulled him off my chest, and the words that came out of my mouth were, "He's gone." You can't prepare for a moment like that, but I'd been preparing for years, believing I would see the dead raised. I'd seen most of the miracles of the Bible. But I set him on that table, and I began to pray. I said, "God, I don't know what to do to his body, but I know what to do spiritually." I continued to pray, and I watched the minutes inch away. 8 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And during that time, I was answering their questions, but I was commanding Nathaniel to come back because I knew his spirit was gone. I said, "Nathaniel, you listen to your daddy right now. I want you to come back here." I was rebuking the spirits of death from the room. I was repenting of every sin I'd ever thought of doing, every sin my family had ever done generationally. I was taking away every right that the enemy had to attack my family and my son. And at about 22 minutes, I had a vision. In the middle of that hospital room, the doctors were still working on him. You could see them looking at each other. But I saw in the middle of that room a boat being tossed by the waves, and I could see Jesus on the boat, and I knew that was my promise, that the Lord was going to raise my son back up. I knew we had passed the barriers where brain damage begins and all those things.
How long had he been dead?
At that point, it was about 22 minutes.
Wow.
It ended up 40 minutes before they found a heartbeat and blood pressure. And they told us that he wouldn't have the strength to make it through an operation, that he needed an operation. He'd had an ulcer related to the medicine, we found out later. And the ulcer had ruptured. And so he had been pouring toxins throughout his system into his bloodstream. They said he would be too weak to make it through an operation. He was gone too long, that he would be brain damaged. And for people that were here this evening, they got to see him firsthand running around full of life, no brain damage, and raised by the power of God.
That's how I want you to hear God.
Amen.
I want you to hear God. And Richard has been raised up, and he's going to supernaturally teach you when we come back what God has taught him as to how you can hear God's voice.